You know that moment when a major game is happening and suddenly it feels like the entire world is paying attention to the same thing? Your coworkers are discussing predictions before work. Your friends are checking scores every few minutes. Social media becomes an endless stream of highlights, celebrations, arguments, and statistics. And while everyone around you seems emotionally invested, you find yourself wondering why you simply can't bring yourself to care. Not because you hate sports, not because you think you're above it, you just don't feel that pull. For years, I assumed people who felt this way were somehow missing out on something important. After all, sports are one of the biggest forms of entertainment on the planet. Entire cities build identities around teams. Families pass loyalties down through generations. Friendships are formed around shared victories and heartbreaking losses. So when you don't naturally connect with that world, it's easy to wonder whether something about you is different. According to psychology, it might be, but not in the way most people think. Researchers who study attention and motivation have found that people who don't become deeply invested in sports often aren't less passionate than everyone else. In many cases, they're just as curious, enthusiastic, and emotionally engaged. The difference isn't a lack of passion. The difference is where that passion naturally goes. Think about two people watching the same championship game. One person is completely absorbed. Every play matters. Every score changes their mood. Their attention is locked onto the screen. Meanwhile, the other person's mind keeps drifting elsewhere. Maybe they're thinking about a project they're building. Maybe they're replaying an interesting conversation. Maybe they're exploring an idea they recently discovered and can't stop thinking about. Same game, same room, completely different psychological experience. And this is where things become interesting. Psychologists often describe attention as one of your brain's most valuable resources. You only have so much of it available each day. Your mind is constantly deciding what deserves that attention and what doesn't. Most of this happens automatically. You don't consciously choose what fascinates you. Your brain simply responds. Some people are naturally drawn toward competition and uncertainty. Others are drawn toward ideas, creativity, learning, or personal projects. Here's the part most people overlook. Sports are rarely just about sports. What makes sports so powerful isn't simply the game itself, it's what the game represents. Belonging, identity, community, shared emotional experiences. Human beings naturally want to feel connected to something larger than themselves. Sports happen to be one of the most visible ways that need gets fulfilled. When a team wins, fans often feel like they've won too. When a team loses, it can feel surprisingly personal. Psychologists call this social identification, the process of attaching part of your identity to a group you care about. That's why sports can create such intense emotions. The game becomes more than entertainment. It becomes part of how people see themselves. But sports aren't the only place this happens, and this is where people who don't obsess over sports often differ. Many of them satisfy that same psychological need somewhere else. Instead of identifying with a team, they identify with ideas, creative pursuits, personal goals, careers, or communities built around shared interests. The psychological need remains exactly the same. The expression simply looks different. This is why someone can feel nothing while watching a championship game, but become completely energized during a conversation about a topic they love. To an outsider, it may look like one person cares deeply while the other doesn't, but internally, the same emotional machinery is operating. It's simply responding to different triggers. The passion is there, it's just directed elsewhere. And honestly, I think this is where many people misunderstand themselves. When everyone around you seems excited about something that leaves you feeling indifferent, it's easy to assume something is wrong with you. Human beings naturally compare themselves to the people around them. It's one of the ways we figure out who we are. But comparison can be misleading. You notice your lack of enthusiasm for sports. You don't notice the countless things you care about that other people don't. Because of that, it's easy to mistake difference for deficiency. Psychology suggests they're not the same thing. Just because you care about different things doesn't mean you care less. It simply means your attention is organized differently. And attention matters more than most people realize, because whatever consistently captures your attention eventually shapes your life. Here's where the research becomes particularly interesting. Psychologists often distinguish between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation comes from external rewards like approval, recognition, status, or belonging. Intrinsic motivation comes from genuine personal interest. You do something because it feels meaningful, because you're curious, because you genuinely enjoy it. Many people who don't obsess over sports tend to invest heavily in activities that are intrinsically rewarding. They're not pursuing something because everyone else values it. They're pursuing it because they genuinely find it fascinating. And that's a powerful thing. Intrinsic motivation is what allows someone to spend years mastering a skill nobody asked them to learn. It's what fuels creativity, expertise, and personal growth. Something subtle happens when your interests are intrinsically driven. You stop needing constant external validation. The activity itself becomes rewarding. Learning becomes rewarding. Improvement becomes rewarding. The process becomes rewarding. You no longer need a crowd to tell you something matters because your interest already provides that sense of meaning. If these ideas resonate with you, you might enjoy exploring more psychology like this. Subscribing helps this channel reach people who may have spent years wondering why they feel slightly out of step with everyone else. And honestly, I think this explains a lot. Many people who aren't interested in sports aren't lacking passion at all. They're simply receiving that sense of engagement from somewhere else. Their minds are already occupied by goals, ideas, projects, questions, or creative pursuits that feel deeply meaningful to them. Think about someone who spends hours learning a new skill, writing, creating, building, researching, or exploring an interest. To someone else, that behavior might seem just as unusual as sports fandom appears to them. But psychologically, the two experiences have more in common than most people realize. Both involve attention. Both involve identity. Both involve emotional investment. Both provide a sense of meaning. Here's another layer worth considering. Attention is limited. Every day, your brain is processing responsibilities, decisions, relationships, ambitions, worries, and countless streams of information. For some people, adding another emotional commitment simply doesn't feel appealing. Their mental energy is already invested elsewhere. Think of attention like a budget. Everyone has a limited amount to spend. Some people spend part of that budget following teams, players, and seasons. Others spend it creating, learning, building, exploring, or understanding. Neither choice is inherently better. They're simply different expressions of what each person finds meaningful. So if you've ever felt disconnected when sports dominate every conversation around you, psychology actually has some reassuring news. Your experience isn't unusual. It doesn't mean you're antisocial. It doesn't mean you're boring. It doesn't mean you're missing some essential human trait. It may simply mean your mind has chosen a different place to invest its energy, a different source of excitement, a different source of belonging, a different source of meaning. Because at the end of the day, the psychology of people who don't obsess over sports isn't really about sports. It's about attention. It's about identity. It's about where human beings choose to place their emotional energy. And once you recognize that, the question changes. You stop asking why you don't care about what everyone else seems to care about, and you start asking a far more revealing question. What captures your attention so completely that hours disappear without you noticing? Because the answer to that question often tells you something profound about yourself. Not what society expects you to value, not what your friends value, not what culture celebrates, but what genuinely matters to you. If you enjoyed this exploration into human behavior, consider subscribing and joining us for more conversations about the hidden patterns that shape how we think, feel, and connect with the world. And if you'd like to support these deeper discussions even further, becoming a channel member genuinely helps make them possible. Because once you start paying attention to where people place their attention, you begin noticing something fascinating. Every person is obsessed with something. The only difference is that not all obsessions are equally visible. And maybe that's what psychology has been quietly trying to tell us all along.